Hey guys, welcome to Monkey's World. This video is about it's about Rob Reiner. I've been in a fog for 3 days trying to figure out how to make a video about this because it was a shock. When it first popped up, I'm like, oh, that's so sad. I know he's not young, and he wasn't. He was 78. His wife was 70. And I, you know, so at first I thought, we've lost another great one. That really stinks. Then they're talking about his wife. And I'm like, what the? And I started reading. And it became a horror movie very quickly. Their lives were ended with a knife by their son, who has battled both mental illness and drug addiction and been in and out of rehabs since the age of 14. He is now 32. It makes me very sad for him. It really does. I want to give you a little bit of biography on Rob Reiner. I have no biography on his wife. She was a photographer on movie sets, and that's how they met, on When Harry Met Sally. And that's really all I know about her. Rob was the son of Carl Reiner, of course, who was director, producer, actor, writer, comedy genius behind the Dick Van Dyke Show. And boy, I can't imagine how Dick Van Dyke's feeling right now. Having just turned 100 and having this happen, it must be awful, just awful. And somewhere in the late 60s, he met Penny Marshall. In 1971, they married, uniting two powerhouse Hollywood families. Because Penny, her brother, and I think one of their parents were huge powerhouses in not only Penny as a brilliant comedic actress, but also as a brilliant director, producer, as was her brother. I believe they met, if I remember my father telling me correctly, because we watched the reruns on The Odd Couple. And I believe he told me that that's where they met and began dating, was when they were both on The Odd Couple. They married in 1971. Again, uniting two Hollywood power families into one absolute superpower in terms of directing, writing, producing, absolute Hollywood magic and gold. He adopted her daughter Tracy from her first marriage, and Tracy's an actress now, Tracy Reiner. They divorced in 1981, so they were married for 10 years. And it's my understanding they were still good friends and even occasionally worked together after their split. In 1989, as I mentioned, he married Michelle. They had 3 children. They had their son Jake, their son Nick, and their daughter Romy. Nick is the one who is accused of their ending, causing their ending. You know, they say until death do us part, but what happens when death didn't do your part? Anyway, um, and Romy is the one that found her parents, and a horror show, from what I understand. Again, Nick has struggled since the age of 14. Rob was 78, Michelle was 70. I am beyond heartbroken for their other two children, for Tracy. You know, Tracy already lost her mom. And to lose her dad so brutally? Ugh. The evening before this all happened, Rob, Michelle, and Nick, who had been living with his parents, were at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party, which Conan was looking forward to relaxing and ending what had been a kind of rough year for him. And a verbal altercation broke out between Rob and Nick. We don't know a lot about that. We just know there was an altercation, and Rob told him he was behaving inappropriately, which sounds like being a parent. I mean, even when your kid is 36, sometimes you have to be a parent, you know? Nick is being held on 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances of having used a knife. He's not even deemed to fit to put in a plea at this point. Yeah, they're saying that they want to go after the death penalty. Of course, this is California, and it happened in Brentwood, the same place where the Simpson Goldman murders took place, Brentwood. So, well, I think some of the special circumstances here is that he murdered a very elderly man and an elderly woman. That's part of the special circumstances, is that they were elderly. Um, but the major special circumstance is that it was with a knife. But that doesn't make sense to me because it's not really a special circumstance. To me, the special circumstance would be that it was his parents and or that they were elderly. Those are special circumstances. With a knife is just how he did it. With a knife, with a gun, with a rope, whatever. You know, that's just the weapon. The weapon isn't necessarily a special circumstance. And later on, it did say special circumstances and didn't include the knife. So I think a reporter included that as a special circumstance. I think the special circumstance was their age and the fact that they were his parents. So this is just putting on my kid missing hat here. I chuckled because I said I put on my kid missing hat. Because that's what it sounded like. None of this is remotely funny. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's a tragedy. Tragedy is not even a big enough word. Not just because we lost a great talent, because 2 elderly human beings were murdered by their sick child. Regardless of who those 2 elderly people may have been, they were murdered by their mentally ill child. Who, yes, I understand was 36. That's not a child. He's their child. And they tried to help him, like I said, from the time he was 14 years old, in and out of rehabs, and, you know, I would imagine mental health specialists and just wow. So it wasn't like they didn't try to help the poor child. Well, he's not a child, he's 36, but you gotta remember. I'm almost twice his age. Um, the poor young man. Yeah, they're saying that they could go for the death penalty, but he's not even been mentally cleared to even put in a plea. So I think someone is running a little ahead of themselves to say that they're going to go after the death penalty when his brain is too frazzled to even put in a plea of guilty or not guilty. So I think somebody's running ahead of themselves just a little bit. Once again, putting on my kid missing hat. And if he is found unfit to stand trial completely, he'll be put in a hospital for the rest of his life, which is probably for the best. And what his parents would want, they wouldn't want him getting the death penalty. I mean, they're his parents. I think if you're a parent and your child does something like this, because you wouldn't want them to hurt anyone else, of course you wouldn't want them to hurt you, but you wouldn't want them to hurt anyone else. So I think you'd almost be relieved that it was you and that they would be away where they couldn't hurt anyone else. And maybe finally getting the deep help that you tried to get them. You know what I mean? And what he's going to wake up to from his drug and mental illness fog once he's treated, medicated properly, and treated properly is going to be a nightmare for that young man. So, and I think he's safer in a hospital than he is in a jail. So, so I will keep you updated as to his status and whether or not he will plead or be put into a facility or what's going to happen. So, but my prayers are with Nick, Tracy, and Romy. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. I don't usually do this kind of video on this channel, but that's not really the kind of story I do on the other channel. You know, like a Hollywood story. So I decided to do it on this channel, and I hope you're okay with that. And it gives you a preview of how Kid Missing works. So please consider hitting that subscribe button. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys.